And you will know my name is the Lord. I'm walking here. I'm walking here.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Groovy.
Wham. Should have played Calendar Girl.
I don't like the implications of that.
I think we're actually going to use that to start the episode. So welcome everyone to Box Office Pulp. I'm your host, Cody.
We're going to start with copyrighted music?
Yeah, it was under 30 seconds. That's fair use.
No, that's not how that works. That's a myth, Cody.
No, I feel like that's fine.
No, you have to review the song to make it fair use.
That's
okay, then let's review the song.
Guys, we just gave ourselves a solution on that one. So...
Cody, you are way too fucking excited about that.
Oh, that's great. It's great.
I learned something about the law.
So this is the box office pulp for Careless Whisper by Wham.
What constitutes a review?
You just have to say a couple words about it.
We talked about how we couldn't use it.
Is that a review?
Somebody else has
the review process
going, right?
Oh shit, I didn't turn mine on.
I'm not recording.
I'm recording. I love how Cody surprise started the podcast to himself.
Oh, man.
It finally backfired on him.
Justice.
And Cody was able to break the fourth wall of Cody with that one. That's what I love. He's prepared for this episode all about Deadpool.
I tried to turn my recorder on, but I don't think it's working.
I still want you to use that intro, though, of us debating.
Oh, fuck yeah. That was perfect.
No one was recording, were they?
Mike was.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. I love how we just can't have a normal fucking start to the podcast. Everything is a goddamn catastrophe.
Are you kidding me? That was fantastic. I got to learn something about copyright law.
I got to play Wham.
Really? Everyone's a winner.
I can start my own radio show now. Cody in the morning.
You just review every song you play.
Yeah.
And no one can sue you.
Just, apparently the laws are pretty lax on the review settings, so I can just say a couple words about how, Spice Girls, Barbie Girl makes me feel, or not Spice Girls, I'm sorry, I fucked that all up. That review is going to have to be rescinded.
It was Aqua.
You're right. No, I fucked that one up.
But Cody, how does it make you feel inside?
Like a party girl. I don't actually remember the lines anymore, other than that song makes me feel like dancing.
Okay, do you have a life in plastic? And is it fantastic?
It is.
Have you seen his Legos?
I do have many.
We are not going down this road again. I'm sorry.
Legos.
One last thing I want to say about Legos. When I went home for the weekend, my nephew and I were playing pool, and I got bored because he's terrible. And I just started looking around my old boxes of stuff in the basement where a pool table is, and I found a box of my old Legos, and they're all disassembled, which is unfortunate because I had some cool stuff in there at one point when it was all together. But I found my old Tobey Maguire Spider-Man Lego in there. Oh yeah, so I've currently got him web-slinging along my Avengers Tower set.
At last, the franchises have crossed over. You waited until the acquisition to put that.
That was a couple of days ahead. I was too excited. Unfortunately, my Avengers Tower only has Thor, Tony Stark, and Peter Parker. I'm missing a couple guys.
Wow, what a fucking ragtag group of heroes.
It's a condensed set, though, so I really couldn't fit too many more heroes in there.
Can you get an Aquaman one? Just throw him in there for the fuck of it?
I'll put him on the lower level. No one will look him in the eye. They make a Gorilla Grodd. I could get one of those.
The real question is, do they make an Ultra Humanite?
No.
I mean, that could be a Chase variant.
Hey, can we start the show now?
Sorry, I have one quick question. So the Gorilla Grodd set, I have to look that up to see what the Flash is doing. For some reason, my mind is telling me they put him in a car, which makes no sense.
It's the Flash, fan.
We'll get to the show momentarily, people. The set is called
Legos.
It's technically more of a Lego review than a Wham review, but, you do what you do. Okay, so it's the Gorilla Grodd Goes Bananas set. It is $49.99. And, okay, the Flash is not in a vehicle. There's a banana man, who looks like he could be out of Arrested Development, running in terror. It comes with Captain Cold with Cold Gun. It comes with Gorilla Grodd, who looks like he might be doing the hustle. It comes with Wonder Woman, complete with sword. An invisible jet, a tiny, like one of those three-wheeled, motorized truck things, a crate of bananas, a net, I don't know what the net is out for, Batman, and a giant Batman mech.
Okay, so this is what I'm getting. There was an open box in a Lego factory. A bunch of shit fell from a shelf into the box. They accidentally sealed the box. It got sent off, and they just made it up from there.
I just love how much overkill that is for Gorilla Grodd stealing bananas.
Grodd would find that offensive.
The Batmech has like a laser cannon for one of the arms and a hand for the other arm.
Here's the thing. All of that sounded fine until you got to Batman and the Batman mech, which makes me think Bruce is just insane and irrevocably messing up Diana's plans to capture Gorilla Grodd.
Well, she's the one with the sword.
She's got a sword and
it's a monkey going after some bananas.
I just love the idea of someone walking into the watchtower and saying, Gorilla Grodd is stealing bananas again. She unsheaths her fucking sword and runs out.
The best part is there's Captain Cold with him, so this was a tag team effort to steal one box of bananas.
They're the most rare bananas and all the glue.
It looks like this box holds 4 bananas. Goddamn Gorilla Grodd could go to a Walmart and steal 4 bananas with less effort. And honestly, if you wanted to buy the bananas, they're like, what, $1 a pound? He could...
Not even that. Just psychically control somebody to walk into a goddamn grocery store, get you some bananas, and walk out. Why do you have to stop a banana truck?
Is that why Captain Cold is there? Nobody monkeys around with my brain, Grodd.
Okay, there is a description here. Protect the truck driver from banana-hungry Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd is causing havoc in Gotham City as he seeks his morning banana fix. The gigantic gorilla is leaping on the truck, sending crates of bananas flying off, and almost breaking the vehicle in half. Hurry to save the terrified driver with Batman and his awesome Batmech. Launch a triple Lego superheroes counterattack by firing the net and stud shooters. Face off against mighty Gorilla Grodd with the Flash evading the evil beast grabbing fists and Captain Cold and his devastating ice shooter. Mind you, devastating ice shooter is all in caps. Swoop unseen into battle with Wonder Woman in her invisible jet with spring-loaded missiles. Then send Batman leaping off the top of the mech with the super jumper to bring down Gorilla Grodd. Includes 5 minifigures with assorted weapons and accessories. The Flash, Wonder Woman, Batman, trademark, Captain Cold, and Truck Driver, plus a Gorilla Grodd figure.
I just imagine Gorilla Grodd getting just taken down like Justin Bieber in that CSI episode. Just, come out on all sides.
I gotta say,
and then Wonder Woman stabs him in the throat.
I gotta say, I'm fucking with Grodd now. Like, the human race needs to die. It's violent and fucked up.
Also, he just wanted a morning banana fix.
Right? He's going for breakfast. This guy he's big. He needs lots of food.
That Grodd has a banana problem like most people have heroin problems.
Also, it's morning in Gotham City. What is Batman doing out?
In his Batmech. With a missile launcher arm.
Why are you building that robot, Batman?
I must.
Gorilla Grodd might steal my bananas.
Oh god, those are Wayne tech bananas.
I'm more concerned by the fact that, like you mentioned, Wonder Woman shows up with a sword and an invisible jet propped up with missiles. She has missiles to take out a gorilla who's trying to get breakfast.
Okay, here's my thing. What if the Flash is actually trying to defend Grodd from Wonder Woman?
I'm still wondering why the fuck is Captain Cold here? What does he try? Is he like just a big fan of frozen bananas? Is there some chocolate dipping sauce like off to the side? The truck driver's running.
He's gonna sell them on the black market of Central City.
Okay, I want to paint a picture.
Okay,
Grodd is attacking a banana truck with the help of Captain Cold. He's really going after it. He's just shoving him in his mouth. He's having the time of his life. From up above, through the clouds, comes Wonder Woman in the seated position. Flying in. And then bursting out of nowhere. 3 fucking rockets just coming and tearing apart the street. Buildings collapsing on top. The truck goes flying. Bananas everywhere.
Zack Snyder just jerking off in the corner.
Cold is dead. Captain Cold is fucking dead.
Now, here's my question. Are you saying the missiles came from the Invisible Jet or the Batmech?
The Invisible Jet. The Batmech hasn't entered frame yet. Wonder Woman lands, leaps out of nothing with her fucking sword, lands in front of Grodd. She tries to deliver the killing blow. But it's at this point that Cold's body comes flying out of the sky to finally land on top of Wonder Woman, knocking the sword from her hand, which goes flying off. Grodd wrestles for it, grabs the sword, and right before about to kill Wonder Woman, a fucking pulsar blast disintegrates his entire being because Batman has entered in his fucking mech, and there is nothing left of Gorilla Grodd left but 2 monkey hands grasping on to Wonder Woman's sword.
Damn these monkey hands.
And then the Flash arrives.
Oh God, no!
I had a deal with them.
I wasn't fast enough. And that is the opening scene of Justice League.
Dawn of Justice.
You want to form a Justice League, guys?
So anyways, welcome to Box Office Pulp. I'm your host, Cody. Joining me today, James Lewis.
Maximum.
MB. Say hello, MB.
Sexy.
That'll do. And the one and only Mike Napier. And if you haven't guessed, by this point, we're here to discuss Deadpool.
Because honestly, if you haven't gotten that by now, you're fucking stupid. I'm sorry.
You weren't paying any attention. Jesus.
Let's just get out of the way now. I hate this fucking podcast so much.
Oh, your tears sustain me.
But yes, we're actually here to discuss Deadpool. Captain Deadpool.
The big L cancer himself.
So, I have no better way to jump into this episode besides talk about Legos for 20 minutes. So let's just get this out of the way. What did everyone think of the movie? Did you like it? Did you have a good time?
I want to start out by saying that I've been a fan of Deadpool for a number of years. Not a very hardcore fan of him. Like, he's had so many varying interpretations in the comics that it's been hard for me to actually latch on to one specific version of them. So I've always been kind of a fan who's enthusiastic about the character, but not someone who's more than a casual fan at heart. And this movie, I kind of had a lot of reservations about it going in because one of the things that actually is difficult about the Deadpool character is that a lot of people portray him solely as the Bugs Bunny aspect, which is he's just there to break the fourth wall and do really ridiculous things and do all of this stuff that makes no sense. And he knows he's in a comic and all this stuff. Like, he does all this stuff without any sort of substance to it. And I was afraid the movie would go the same way. To my surprise, it didn't. And I actually really loved the movie version. I think more than a lot of the comic versions, actually. Because it managed to drive home a lot of what worked about Deadpool as a character in the comics and in the cartoons and all of that, by taking the aspect of who Wade Wilson was before he was Deadpool and still integrating that with who he was after he became Deadpool. Because the ridiculous over-the-top stuff is still there, but it's handled in a way where it's only done in spurts, as opposed to just that is his constant persona in and out of the mask.
Well, like all good Deadpool comics, it's a best of both worlds situation. And as for me, it is everything I've ever wanted in an hour and 40 minutes.
Do you want to take it home and make love to it?
I did.
Good.
And here's the thing is, like, you're actually a huge fan of Deadpool.
Oh yeah.
It made me so happy inside I have been wanting this movie since I was like 14. And I've been wanting to see Reynolds in this role for that long, and I've never seen him in this role before. Not even once. In, let's say, the year 2009. Never seen him before. And Deadpool just broke the fourth wall so hard once, Ryan Reynolds was born. And this is why he's been put on this earth, to give us this perfect film of everything you would ever want with Deadpool. It is the ultimate Deadpool film. I don't know what else you could do after this. Even if this didn't make any money and this was the only one that was ever made, I would be happy.
To be fair, they did say what they would do with another Deadpool film. Cable.
That is true, and that always adds everything.
The only thing more ridiculous than Deadpool.
More pouches. That's what this movie's missing. Pouches.
So many pouches.
And lines. Lines, shit ton of lines over every character.
And as MB was saying, it brings the substance of a lot of great Deadpool stories. Because, you know, he kind of goes back and forth. There's a lot of stuff that's very serious about Deadpool, and there's some just, you know, a lot of random comics where he's just talking to the president on the phone for no particular reason.
Monkey Butler, or Monkey Assassin.
Exactly. Which are great. There's nothing wrong with those. But I like it when Deadpool's kind of taken back a little bit. It's a nice mixture, like the original Joe Kelly stuff or the Gail Simone stuff.
Yeah, you really need a contrast there because a lot of times Deadpool runs into, for lack of a better term, the Mars Attacks problem.
Go on.
In the Tim Burton movie from 1996, Mars Attacks. Yeah. Starring Jack Nicholson, and Jack Nicholson.
And Pierce Brosnan.
Yes.
His head.
It's just him. They couldn't afford the whole Pierce Brosnan. That's why they wrote him into the script that way.
His dick is worth more than I ever will. Like in Mars Attacks, the reason that movie does not work is because of a very simple design flaw in the storytelling, and that's both the humans and the aliens are equally cartoony, so there's no contrast whatsoever. It's Bugs Bunny battling Bugs Bunny, so every joke in that movie falls flat. And that's what happens a lot with Deadpool comics, where Deadpool is being Deadpool, but the world around him is just as Deadpool as he is, so there's nothing for him to play against. The times when Deadpool works are whenever he's inserted into a dead serious story, but he's the one breaking the fourth wall and not giving a shit. And that's what we get here. I kind of hope that a lot of the Deadpool stuff in the future will kind of take a cue from that, and I guess sort of go back to basics there.
I think it works great for comedies when you have characters that are in different movies and don't realize it. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, how Ronan just is in a completely different film and just has no concept of the outside world because he doesn't see it that way. And in this movie, it's basically like Ajax is just in a completely different film, and he occasionally drags Wade into his world, his movie. And I think the movie's strongest when it's basically the other way around. Deadpool's dragging Ajax into his world, which is how it should be. Deadpool should be trying to annoy other and kind of putting his influence out there, but everyone else shouldn't be on the same level, like you said.
It's basically Deadpool being inserted into a 1987 Canon Film Group movie.
Which was a pretty brilliant way to go. Because I guess you could make the argument, it's like, so the story's a little paint by the numbers, but I like how it's paint by the numbers, because you just add Deadpool to it.
Well, yeah, I think it would have been a mistake to make it this really, complex story that has a ton of layers to it and then try to place Deadpool and everything he is on top of that, because, wow, that would be a lot to take in. The way they do it simplistically is the strength of how they can actually develop Deadpool as a character, because if you just have him being there and being the way that he is, but also having all this background noise, then it's just going to turn off the viewer. It's not going to really inundate him it's not going to really show them what makes him special.
This movie performs an amazing magic trick, which you don't really realize until after you're walking out of the theater, which is there's actually not really a plot to Deadpool. It's two really long action scenes strung together with a couple of flashbacks. And you never notice that when you're watching it because it's so well done. So wait a second, I just watched a character study of Deadpool linked by 2 action scenes. That should not work as a movie, and yet it does. Because they made the very good decision of realizing that Deadpool is the movie, not the plot, not anything else. Like, you're going into this movie to see Deadpool do Deadpool things.
That's the beauty of how faithful the movie is, and the beauty of any real Deadpool story in general, which is the pool's Deadpool. You're there to experience what's going on along with Wade, whether he's being, having deathly serious or sweet moments, whether he's being a piece of shit or whether he's just being violent Bugs Bunny. Like that Bugs Bunny from that mid-2000s cartoon that lasted 9 episodes.
Oh God. And I want to say that was called Looney Tunes Extra.
No, it was Lunatics, spelled with an X.
Oh God, they actually made that? I thought that was just a thing they threatened us with.
They made it. They made it. They did do some redesigning in it, though, to make it slightly less extreme before it was immediately canceled.
They should have gone the other way, more extreme. I want to see Bugs Bunny actually decapitating people.
And that's the beautiful thing, because with Deadpool, you have moments where he's being violent, he's being a bad person, he's being a cartoon complete with Looney Tunes sound effects, and then this completely sincere relationship that's the backbone of the film. And none of those things should actually work, but because they don't try too hard and just put it out there for you to experience, and you're just there essentially hanging out with Wade, that's what makes the movie work so goddamn well. It makes it so enjoyable to watch, I think. You're just hanging out with Deadpool.
I think a big part of the success of that is that this movie is it's a blockbuster movie, let's face it, but
somehow
it has indie sensibilities out the wazoo. It manages to make the most of a very tiny budget compared to a lot of superhero movies. Reynolds was very candid about that from the beginning. That's actually a lot of what he said worked about the movie. And he was right, because every single decision they make is intricate, and you can tell really planned out in terms of the effects, in terms of the storytelling, in terms of
when you have 10 years to work on the script, you can kind of do that.
Oh yeah, easily. But you can tell it down to little things like the Foley work and the shot composition. Everything is just so immaculately made into it's almost like a finely tuned machine, the way it works. Because again, like Cody actually said, they've spent a decade easily trying to get this off the ground and trying to make this as Deadpool as possible. We all read the original script.
Allegedly. That was covering us from the legal side. We're fine. That's how law works.
Yeah. Hey, we were reviewing the script.
It's fine. It's fair use for the sake of parody.
And hey, if you want the script, meet me in a back alley.
Don't
meet
got some shady please.
PDF files to send you.
I got your Deadpool right here, man.
I'll accept all forms of payment.
The fact of the matter is that
blow me is what I'm saying.
I don't know how I can follow that up now.
Box Office Pulp recommends blowing Mike Napier in a dark back alley for Deadpool.
Box Office Pulp recommends giving him what he wants.
I like how that
always giving him what he wants.
Also, I like how that just made it sound like by blowing me in a dark alley, you'd be honoring a Deadpool. Not necessarily I'd be giving you anything for Deadpool.
Hey, kids!
That's how you witness him. You find Mike in a dark alley and you do the deed.
Anyway, MB, you were saying before I was getting blown in an alleyway?
Before we interrupted your valid points.
The fact of the matter is that they were in development hell for so long because Fox would not budge on anything. They wouldn't budge on the rating. They wouldn't budge on the tone. They wouldn't budge on even the budget itself as a result of them just not really wanting to give them anything, because they didn't think an R-rated hero movie would work. And to a point, I don't think anyone actually thought it would. That's what was so surprising, is that when this came out, nobody expected it to be the massive hit that it was. But this thing took the world by storm, not just comic book fans and general audiences, it brought in as much money, if not more, than most of the big summer tentpole movies in what was it, February? Like mid-February?
Yeah.
So that in itself was a feat, but the reason that all of that happened was because they had so long to prep it. They had so long to fine-tune it and make it into what it was, because Reynolds was always attached to it. Miller was attached very early on. Reese and Warnick wrote the script
years ago.
Yeah, very.
And it hasn't changed all that much. They stuck a couple people together. They eliminated a couple action scenes to save money, but it's by and large been the same script for years now.
Oh yeah, a lot of the great jokes in the movie are still retained from the original Warnick and Reese script.
Well, they did cut out a lot of the top 10 worst moments of Wade's life jokes.
Yeah, they cut out pretty much the entire second act, which a lot of that. Like, because there's a lot of callbacks to things that were in the script that were then cut out just for time and budget. Because I think they had when they got greenlit, Fox said you have 48 hours to cut the 110-page script down by another 10 pages, plus eliminate all this money.
Yeah, they're told they had to drop something like $7 million from the final project, like, days before they're supposed to go in.
Yeah, that's why Wire and Garrison Kane were cut out.
Wasn't that why at the end of the movie, they forget the bag of guns a second time?
Yes.
Like, in the original script, there's a giant shootout. Deadpool has automatic shotguns, and he's blowing people away, and just guts and blood. It's basically the ending of The Expendables 1, but with Deadpool.
Pretty much.
Terry Crews.
It took place in a skyscraper, too.
Oh, yeah. And they just dropped all of that because it was expensive.
I say it worked out for the best.
Yeah, because really, at the end of the day, all Deadpool really needs are the katanas, because Wade, much like Spider-Man, is a very acrobatic character in this movie. And that works to a hilarious degree, because every time they cut to Wade doing one of those amazing action sequences, he becomes more of a cartoon. The CGI literally, I think they intentionally made it look more fake than it actually should be, so that he looked even more like a cartoon.
I was just happy we got more Dopinder.
So much Dopinder. I think there was more in the script.
I can't remember. I actually completely forgot about his character in the script, so for all I know, there was less of him or none of them.
Also, a big departure from the original script is that Negasonic Teenage Warhead was not a factor whatsoever.
And an excellent addition.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to say, is that it just worked out for the best.
I'm really happy that we finally have a very good depiction of Colossus. And I can't say the characterization is necessarily spot on to the comics, but the visuals of Colossus are finally up to par. Like, they made a character that feels like he's 9 feet tall and made out of metal. Whereas in the other X-Men movies, Colossus isn't that notable. Whereas we finally have a Colossus I can give two shits about. It's fantastic.
And he is finally Russian.
Russian as fuck.
All my favorite moments, I think, were involving Colossus. Like Wade breaking all of his limbs trying to kick him. Just, so good. Or Colossus trying to protect Gina Carino's dignity when her boot comes out.
I still love the nut shot in that scene just because it's been built up throughout the entire movie of how impenetrable Colossus's balls are. That is a running joke with an X-Men character in a film.
And it is set up with the original joke being Deadpool reels back his fist to punch Ajax in the face, hits something solid, looks to the camera and says, "Dad?"
That's the introduction of Colossus.
Well, no, the introduction of Colossus is even better.
Eating cereal in the X-Mansion.
The most X-Men thing ever put on film. Colossus just sitting in the X-Mansion's kitchen, watching the news and seeing that Deadpool's attacking some motherfuckers. And then gets on the jet and leaves.
Just the fucking pan from the television over to Colossus, fully steeled up, eating breakfast. Deadpool?
And then he offers Negasonic Teenage Warhead a protein bar after saying that blowing up the X-Mansion builds character.
Just to maintain is not that far away in characterization from comic book Colossus.
It's really not. Like, it's
They made him slightly more a Boy Scout, but
yeah,
it really works to the effect of the film, so I'm not going to put up a fight.
Most any stories with Deadpool, the characters are the same, they're just heightened in different ways.
Well, that's the thing is, like, they're the Deadpool versions of themselves. Like, Wolverine in a Deadpool story is not necessarily always going to be Wolverine, but he works because he's such a perfect foil for Deadpool.
And once again, Negasonic works because it gives Deadpool two completely different personality types of straight man to work off of. I like
the idea of a bored, kind of disinterested teen being pulled between two directions of Colossus's good intent and Deadpool's, fuck it, kind of mentality. Like that weird shoulder angel devil combination there.
That's such a amazing bit of self-awareness on their part. Because one of the functions of Negasonic in that story is to be the surrogate for people in the audience who don't like Deadpool. That's a phenomenon with this movie that fascinates me. People who don't like Deadpool comics still like this movie.
So this is backtracking a little bit to one of MB's comments, just the fact that Fox didn't want to make this film. How embarrassed do you think they were when it came out and did really good business against everything? Like, to get this movie made, someone had to leak test footage to the internet to get fan support rolling. And Fox still fought him on it, like, okay, let's just keep cutting the budget. Let's force him to do this and this and this.
Well, they did throw a party.
It made money.
Like, the executives threw a party where they all had the in-movie drink blowjob. And had, like, dancers and shit there. It's like, you hated this fucking movie and said you didn't get it.
It made money now. We like it. But part of me wonders, too, if they had originally gone with it 10 years ago and just had made the movie, it would have nearly the same amount of success. Let's say it was the same movie, same number of cuts and budget and everything. I just don't know if the audiences would be ready. I mean, because we have so many superhero movies right now, people might be ready for an alternative to, the normal Marvel brand or the traditional X-Men series or the grimmer, grittier DC films that are prepping up here.
Yeah, I wondered that myself, because as soon as X-Men Origins came out, now I'm going to address that movie. Deadpool's brand actually did soar gigantically post that film. And of course, that's where the recent Hornet came in and all that. But the film itself, I don't know. I think it came out at the best time possible now versus then, even if his popularity was bigger then.
Oh, I don't think there's even a question of whether it would have been better now as opposed to then, because now the wait has been so insane that people were willing to kill executives at Fox to get this made. It was that freaking extreme to, I mean, everyone went nuts when the test footage was leaked. Everyone just posted so many comments on the internet.
Well, even then, hardcore fans would probably have liked it whenever, but as far as general audience acceptance of Deadpool is, I don't think would have been anywhere close. Like, maybe a slight tick if it came out back then. I think it would have to be different. I feel like the Marvel movies existing, because they were still in their infancy at the time, kind of primed a general audience a bit more for something like Deadpool, which is a weird thought because of how family-friendly the Marvel films are versus Deadpool. But there's a very comic booky, cartoonish kind of conceit with the film still that I think prime them for wanting something like Deadpool.
Well, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the setup to Deadpool's punchline.
Yeah.
Like, it almost feels like it's a Naked Gun style parody movie of a very specific type of movie that audiences have gotten used to over the past 8 years.
I mean, this is a movie where literally there's a scene of Gina Carano leaping down off of what looks to be a copyright-free version of the helicarrier.
Allegedly.
Which they snuck in there somehow.
They put in a review.
And
this helicarrier is bullshit.
That's the review, and then they moved forward with it.
They just cut out the line. But the entire time, Deadpool is pointing out, is going to do it. It's going to be a superhero jump. It's going to be a superhero jump.
Like, and it's shot for shot just the Iron Man pose.
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of fascinating with Deadpool because you have the fact that they're calling these things out, these tropes, but they still do them, which really is apparent in the end credit scene. Because Marvel is the one that really made this ubiquitous. Like, all superhero movies now have to have, like, 1 or 2 post-credit scenes to set up the sequel and get you excited. No superhero movie can ever just end. It's always got to be a step 1 in a larger series. And Deadpool comes out, does the Ferris Bueller, why are you still here? Go away. And then twists it on itself a second time by coming back out and saying, JK, got you. We actually do have some sequel plans. Here they are.
But he just spells them out to people. He doesn't there's no action sequence. There's nothing. There's
no dramatic tease. That's what I love. It's doing it in the most Deadpool way possible. Anyway, next time we'll have Cable. We haven't cast him yet.
Can someone please explain to me why Cable has a fan base? I've just never really gotten behind the character. I just don't understand it. I'm missing
90s.
something.
90s.
Well, there's a 50-50 split between people who are legitimately into that kind of character with the muscles and the future arm and the eye. Then there's the other 50%, like us, who love Cable because he's the most ridiculous goddamn character in the world. Like, I love Cable like I love Bishop.
Whoa. Cable, I would say, is a legit character.
Rising.
Bishop is not, nor has ever been a legit character. And I don't care if that sounds racist.
I mean, look, we already had live action Bishop, and it was amazing. But
now it's Cable's time.
I do have to side with Mike here a little bit because there are actually story points you can make with Cable's origin story and his whole setup and all that stuff. It's ridiculous, but it's also legitimately something you could do with a character because he's from the future. He's basically a roided up Kyle Reese.
You just have to remove the Liefeld of it all.
Oh yeah, and the technovirus and all that. Like that stuff works as flourishes. Like James was basically hinting at is that all of that stuff almost enhances what is already there because Cable as a character is basically the time travel trope personified, but he has all these weird comic book elements that make him amazing.
Cable is comic books.
Essentially, that's one of the great things about the Deadpool and Cable dynamic, and Cable as Deadpool's straight man and their comedy duo, which is Cable is more ridiculous than Deadpool, but isn't aware of it. Like, he has so much ridiculous trope stuff pulled onto him, but he is a dead serious character who is sincere about everything. And
he's almost the anti with Deadpool.
Exactly. And Deadpool is aware of how ridiculous everything about Cable is. And that's how they bond.
It's just weird to me because, the current fan base for Deadpool seems to latch on to pairings where it's like Deadpool and Spider-Man are more common. You don't really see Deadpool Cable shenanigans all that often on, like Imgur or Tumblr or wherever else people post photographs.
That's because a lot of people like to memeify stuff that's funny, and Spider-Man and Deadpool have quotathons.
Oh, they're mask buddies.
Oh yeah. I love how much heart their current comic book series has. It's adorable.
Which is actually written by Joe Kelly.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And drawn by
everyone's going to learn something today. I get to learn about copyright law. James gets to learn about the new Deadpool series.
You're going to be...
What will MB learn about? Who knows?
No, I already learned something. I learned about what will happen if you go in the back alley with Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Praise to the
Honor
Deadpool.
thy Deadpool. So speaking of Deadpool...
I'm gonna do something a little off kilter here, and
What? We don't do that on this show.
I want to ask everybody not what their favorite moment was, what their favorite joke was.
Oh, I've already got one off the top of my head.
Go.
Wade saying, I'm going to live for 102 years, then die gloriously like the city of Detroit.
Wow, I did not expect that.
It's a toss-up. Well, it's kind of a toss-up between that and Negasonic answering the door and Deadpool saying, hey, Ellen Ripley in the third Alien movie.
I would go with when Deadpool is in the car with Colossus and he has to pretend he is astonished by Dopinder's acts of kidnapping, but is congratulating under his breath, like, I'm proud of you. How could you do something like that? Kill him. And just the sincerity of Deadpool wishing that Dopinder murders his rival because he believes that's the correct thing for him to do to win his love. And the fact that I'm sure Colossus heard all of this and basically just went, I don't have time to deal with one silly little murder.
I am so disappointed that that's my only beef with this movie. That in the final pan out, at the very bottom of the screen, we did not see a naked, handcuffed Indian man with a ball gag in his mouth running. Ooh!
What if they had changed the movie so he's running through the helicarrier as it crashes on top of him?
He's set up as the villain for part 2. Oh my god, Derpinder's cousin is Madcap.
I was going to say, what if the next movie all about Dopinder and Deadpool just kind of pops in and out? We get the next movie exclusively from Dopinder's point of view, like including this film, and then we catch glimpses of Deadpool.
I'm sure Dopinder will actually return, because he was one of the highlights for a lot of people.
He's the Agent Coulson of this franchise. He gets written to the comics.
I hope they keep bringing up not Hydra Bob. I hope he just keeps appearing. As
a member of a different organization each movie.
Different goons every time. So I still love that moment. Just because the animation on Deadpool's mask. Bob?
The most Deadpool joke in the movie.
And my favorite joke is probably somewhere underneath the apartment is 1,000 kilos of cocaine and the cure for blindness. Good luck.
Which could be true. It's Deadpool.
It's just such a weird thing to put together.
I have an add-on to that, which is T.J. Miller's immediate following line to that, where he turns the blind out. And please, someone do their best T.J. Miller and say what the line is, because I can't for the life of me.
You want to get fucked up?
I have to say, Deadpool's baby hand is goddamn hilarious.
I'll say, as referring to the that last scene with Blind Al, another thing I love is the fact you get that moment of him telling Blind Al that he loves her very much, and then immediately making fun of her blindness. What I love is it's Deadpool, and it's specifically this Deadpool movie, so I don't know if that's sincere or not.
What I love is that I think it is, and that's the weird thing.
That's the thing this movie does that elevates it from good to great, in my opinion, is it would have been so easy to just do a Saints Row movie, basically. Like, here's a bunch of violence, some boobs, some pop culture references, here's a bunch of mean jokes, it's really funny, and then you walk out and forget it a week later. But they made the conscious decision to go a step beyond that and make an actual film about Deadpool. There is emotional weight to every scene in this movie.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that this is a character who starts off with a terminal cancer diagnosis and has to seriously deal with that and the complications that arise when he realizes that he was going to have a life and marry this girl that he had met and has a really good connection with, who was played amazingly by Marina Baccarin, considering that the character doesn't really get a lot of service. She makes every scene with her work so well, but
she's the second most memorable thing in this movie, and there's a giant CGI middleman with an enormous dick in this movie.
And a character named Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
And T.J. Miller.
Who was also amazing. He's the third most memorable part. But Deadpool just manages to take all the serious weight behind Wade's decision to go to this Weapon X farm and be experimented on, and gives him all this stuff to work through in his head and his mind, where Reynolds gets to put in a dramatic performance seeded into this most over-the-top performance of all time. It's so amazing how they manage to take that. Like, one of the things that I love and have been alluding to with a bunch of my comments about the movie is that this movie does something with Deadpool that I've never thought of before, which is they give him a dual personality. They give him a secret identity self. in a weird way.
It's very Spider-Man.
Where when he's not wearing the mask, he's 100% serious with occasional sarcastic references, but mostly just an angry dude who wants revenge. When he puts on the mask, he's a cartoon. It's literally kind of like The Mask starring Jim Carrey.
My God, the mashup film we've all been needing, but didn't realize.
That's actually going to be part 3.
I could see it. I would see it.
Let's talk about the sordid history of this film for a minute. Because the train of how it got here goes back far longer than X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, originally wasn't it going to be David Goyer?
Way back to a little film called Blade Trinity.
Good Lord.
On set, Reynolds was shown a Deadpool comic by a producer who said, "You should play this guy sometime. You're already pretty much playing him in the movie." Now, I can't remember if this was I don't think the comic where where Deadpool actually described himself as Ryan Reynolds came out for like another year. But because of that, Goyer and Reynolds wanted to work each other again. New Line had the rights to Deadpool, and Goyer and Reynolds started to work on a Deadpool movie in like 2004.
Well, here's the thing though. Before that, they were actually going to do The Flash.
No, Flash actually came out of this.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I forgot about the time Reynolds was almost the Flash.
Yeah, he was almost Wally. New Line wasn't interested in Deadpool. Like, I think Goyer even got a script or something together. But New Line wasn't interested, so they moved on. They moved on to The Flash. And eventually the Deadpool rights kind of cycled over to Fox through a series of legal trickery. Because Deadpool isn't actually included in the X-Men rights. Despite his origin being rooted in X-Men, but, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So Reynolds still wanted, at this point, through his developing with Goyer and all that, became a gigantic Deadpool fan and was still trying to get it made. So went to Fox, trying again. Eventually, he was told if he wanted his movie, he needs to star in this Wolverine film that they're about to start shooting as Wade. He didn't like anything about it, but to get a solo movie, he was told that's what he has to do. Otherwise, they'll just go with somebody else. So then X-Men Origins comes out, and we get Weapon 11. The movie then gets a little bit of traction where they actually hire writers at that point. That's where Reese and Wernick come in. Tom Rothman, who was running Fox at the time, didn't really like Deadpool, but...
Surprise.
He was trying to get Robert Rodriguez to direct it. That's what excited him about the movie. When Rodriguez decided to do Machete instead, Rothman lost all interest. Tim Miller got hired based on his DC Universe Online trailer. This was in 2010 by this point. The script had been written and was then being kind of redeveloped with Miller. That was the one that eventually leaked. Miller was also kind of hired because Fox assumed that he would be kind of a yes man since this was his first movie. Miller, of course, owns his own company and has no reason to actually do everything Fox tells him. Plus was also already a fan of Deadpool and wasn't comfortable making any weird changes to it anyway. Which is why this is arguably the most X-Men movie that's ever come out. In 2013, the movie was still pretty much dead because it was in a stalemate with the R rating, essentially. R rating and that nobody got it. Rothman had left Fox, which gave it a little bit more traction for a brief time. But in 2013, Fox considered firing Reese and Wernick, firing Tim Miller, and firing Ryan Reynolds, replacing all of them to get a PG-13 Deadpool movie that they would understand.
Starring Vin Diesel as Deadpool.
This did not pan out either because they still didn't get Deadpool at all. And the contracts are still there.
I just imagine they're all locked in a room somewhere screaming at the script. What are you? What are you?
It's like the scene in Saw where it's like Carrie Elways is just staring up and is like, no, this is what it wants. This is what it wants to do to us.
So while they're contemplating this mass firing of everyone involved in the movie, the day after Comic-Con, 2014, was it?
Yep.
The test footage they shot way back in 2012 leaks to the internet, someone filming it on their laptop. It leaks, it goes huge. Later that day, as everyone's going crazy for it, Blur Studios, which Tim Miller owns, puts up the high-def, crystal-clear version of the footage for 5 minutes, and then takes it down. Just long enough for everyone on the internet to grab it, and it's everywhere. A month after that footage leaks, and people are still... That was the Comic-Con Batman v Superman was announced.
Oh, yeah.
And the number one piece of news coming out of Comic-Con was the Deadpool test footage that leaked the day after Comic-Con ended.
And I mean, that wasn't even like, Batman v Superman was the second biggest thing, obviously, but that was also like X-Men Days of Future Past footage was being released, like
tons of stuff.
All of this stuff that should have been the major news. Deadpool the movie.
And then 1 month after that, Guardians of the Galaxy came out.
Which was another major component.
And between those two events, somehow, by what, it was February? Or March or something? February? Fox just greenlit the movie and gave it a release date.
And here's the thing. They greenlit it and gave it a release date, and then they were filming by April of last year. It hasn't even been a year ago to when they started filming, and this movie is out, completed, and has been out in theaters for about a month now.
And that is the sordid, over a decade of history of Ryan Reynolds attempting to play Deadpool.
Unfortunately, now he's going to succumb to his cancer. I did it.
Here's my thing, my whole takeaway from that. When they were considering firing Reynolds, who do you think they were going to get to replace him?
I don't know, Vin Diesel.
I'm James, Vin Diesel.
No, my money is on, they would have gone for a teenage heartthrob, Taylor Lautner.
Ah,
Yeah.
I was going to guess Bradley Cooper, but yours makes more sense. He costs less.
Make all that abduction money.
What about
There's a bomb in the oven.
What if Matthew McConaughey played Deadpool?
I was
All right.
I want to see, like, there's a version of Deadpool out there that's like evil Deadpool, right? There's gotta be like Bizarro Deadpool.
Does he have a mustache over the mask?
Ultimate Deadpool?
Yeah, Ultimate Deadpool. Can McConaughey just come in as like, he comes through a wormhole and he's Ultimate Deadpool?
No, he plays Lady Deadpool.
No, Headpool.
Yes.
What is like his copter?
Canon.
See, I'm more focused right now on what they're going to do with Cable. Do they cast Ron Perlman? Can they get Ron Perlman to be Cable?
Keira Knightley.
That would also be acceptable.
Hey, Stephen Lang is already training to play a role that he has not been cast in yet.
He is the living embodiment of Cable. I think we can all agree on that.
I want so badly for Lang to get this role because he flexed on Twitter. The most Cable thing in the world. How'd you get this job? Flexing.
I want you to go back and look at Stephen Lang in the 80s, and then chart his career. Watch him slowly transmorph, if you will, into Cable
Well,
by
here's
the
the thing.
2000s.
There's a very specific starting point you can use. Manhunter. Look at Manhunter Stephen Lang.
Do what Cody's doing.
Clickety clack clack clickety.
Watch
Holy
him
shit.
regenerate throughout the 90s.
Honest to God, I didn't realize he was in that movie.
He's a different person.
Yes, that's.
That is the third Stephen Lang. We're currently on our 10th.
Does he fucking regenerate every decade?
Yes. It makes no sense, does it?
He is the American Doctor Who.
It doesn't look like his hair, I mean, obviously his hair grayed, but still, his hairstyle is different. He's gotten in shape. He appears to have grown several inches.
Did this guy hit like 50 years old and decide now is the time to become the new Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Pretty much. God, that's why I admire the balls on Lang to make the decision to become an action hero past 50.
He is 63 years old right now.
Jesus.
And he is in what I can only describe as godly shape.
He is Zeus, essentially. He's Zeus. I'll never be in that kind of shape. Wasn't that kind of shape when I was a teenager? Not now. Not when I'm 62.
Not even in my dreams. Like when I go to bed and I'm like, I can fly. I can stop crime. I'm not in that good of shape.
The only other two people that compare in terms of just physical, just impressiveness are Arnold Schwarzenegger, as said, and Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Have you seen Patrick Stewart without his shirt off? It's amazing.
Boom!
That dude just
Boom! Engage.
apparently got to a certain point in his life where he's like, what if I just decide to not die? I'm just going to get younger.
By the way, that segues into my personal favorite joke of the entire movie.
Ah, that was a long setup.
McAvoy or Stewart. These timelines are really confusing. That was said in a movie.
Fucking speaking of that scene. So when I was watching Deadpool and Colossus started to drag Deadpool away, I thought like, man, this looks like RoboCop dragging Ray Wise to the club in RoboCop. Right after I thought that, Deadpool says, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me." Because of course that was on purpose. Then Deadpool warns of 127 hours spoilers.
The movie, I believe you were pointing this out to us the other day. Between the original script being written and this movie being filmed, that incident happened. A movie was made about it. James Franco won awards for that. It became part of popular culture. Then it faded away. And then Deadpool brought it back.
From the ashes.
That is how long this movie has been in development.
This movie has been in development so long that in order to make it current, they had to throw in one throwaway shot of Deadpool pulling his sleeve up and revealing an Adventure Time watch.
So goddamn subtle.
Just think about it. Duke Nukem Forever was probably in development for less time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
This movie was in development for so long, the original script had a running joke involving Amy Winehouse.
Who's dead now.
I was going to say, that would have been topical again. Kind of. I mean, if they'd been about a year faster.
I still think they should have just thrown in a Lindsay Lohan ongoing joke. Or at least kept the Steven Seagal conversation. I loved that scene in the script.
There's always time in the sequel.
Now, could you imagine Deadpool and Cable discussing the titles of Steven Seagal movies?
And Cable knowing what the future of Steven Seagal is, but alluding to like a dark undertaking.
He's Mr. Sinister.
Oh, God.
Back to the humor of Deadpool for a minute. One of the things that just surprised me so much about the humor in the movie, because this was kind of in the script, but still seeing jokes actually being said out loud versus in a script is completely different. They were able to do dumb as shit, low common denominator jokes, and then really intelligent humor at the same time. They just have everything in that movie.
I think that explains a lot of the movie's crossover appeals. That there's jokes for every type of viewer.
I mean, just to explain the versatile nature of the humor in this movie, I mean, there's a sequence, which is my favorite sequence in the entire movie, and I think everyone's favorite sequence in the entire movie, where Deadpool coins his name, develops his costume, and then starts on a murderous rampage, where there's a joke about feminism, there's a joke about killing a man with a Zamboni and how ridiculous that is.
My second
That's the gold
favorite
right
joke.
there.
And
You're gonna die from a Zamboni.
And undercurrent through all of that, there is a Deadpool rap.
A pre-existing Deadpool rap.
That they redid with movie references.
There's something in this movie for everybody. It's like, there's jokes for men, jokes for women, jokes for comic book fans, jokes for people who have never read a comic book before. It operates on so many different levels.
And Deadpool never shuts the fuck up, so as soon as you're thinking, I didn't get that joke, something comes up for you. It's great.
They still need to steal a couple of jokes from Frasier just to completely round it out. But, there's always time.
Well, that's essentially his dynamic with Cable, so.
I mean, let's face it, Kelsey Grammer is Beast.
They just start off Deadpool 2 with him singing the Frasier theme song.
And he did tell Colossus to tell Beast not to take a shit on his lawn anymore. So technically he has had an interaction with Kelsey Grammer. Also, one thing we haven't really brought up is Miller's fucking direction of the
Ugh.
action in this movie. I'm the type of viewer who gets bored very quickly
Same.
in super gory action sequences. Like, I like 300, but at a certain point, my eyes just cross over and I lose interest during those scenes.
Just stuff's happening.
Explosions of blood. There is so much creativity in the action scenes in this movie, the likes of which I have not seen, like, since The Raid.
God, fucking just give it up for Miller in general. Just, this is his first movie, and he just seems like a seasoned director already.
Well, it's his first movie, but he benefits from this not being his first rodeo because, as mentioned, he owns Blur Studios. He directed the opening title sequence from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the remake. Like, he directed opening from Thor: The Dark World.
Arguably the best scene in that movie.
Yeah.
Not even arguably, in my opinion. And he directed, of course, the DC Universe Online trailer, which is
An
one of
amazing
the
short
single,
film. Yeah.
way better than the actual game it's based off of. Like, this dude is way overqualified to be a first-time director, and yet he is, and it shows how much skill he has, because it's just, everything is being used to his, well, the point of phrase from the movie, his maximum effort. He pulls it out of the park.
His sense of kineticism, his sense of geography, varying up every single beat of an action scene.
Just very basic stuff that a lot of modern action directors forget about. Just, like, at no point do you ever lose a sense of where each of the characters are in a scene. The action can be lightning fast, but it's never confusing. You never just see bodies flying around with no relation to anything else.
And on top of that, being able to pull off comedy in the middle of all of that going on, Deadpool beheading people and kicking the head into other people, and I mean, God, just the action scene inside the SUV where Deadpool's cracking jokes and you're getting hilarious camera pans and cuts in the midst of being shot like it's the greatest action scene ever, and in close quarters as well, while also cutting to the motorcycles and what everybody else outside the SUV is doing.
Miller has a very acute knowledge, it seems, of how much information a moviegoer can take in at one time, and the best way of delivering that information to you. One of my favorite little details in the entire movie is the fact that after the opening credits, when you first meet Deadpool in the backseat of the taxi cab, one of the first things he does is throw a wad of chewing gum at the camera, notice it, and then pull it off while looking directly into the lens.
That was the introduction of him breaking the fourth wall.
Not only is that funny and naturalistic, that is insanely clever, because that lets anyone in the audience who isn't in on the joke know, okay, Deadpool sees the camera. It's this kind of movie.
And even how Miller handles the fourth wall breaking could be very, some parts, I mean, obviously when Deadpool's narrating, that's the easiest part to kind of handle. But even kind of dealing with narration comes with its own troubles. But how Miller managed to direct Deadpool just turning and talking to the camera, and having the camera suddenly become personable to Deadpool, and then being able to break away as soon as that's over. There's almost a language Miller's communicating back and forth as if the camera's also a character with Deadpool, and then be able to disengage from that whenever Deadpool's not speaking directly to the camera, and having Deadpool speak to the camera with other characters in frame, and being able to make that work.
Okay, now that you've said that, I just want this amazing alternate cut of the ending where the entire movie is taking place on a projection table, like they're cutting frames of it bit by bit, and you see someone with they have scissors or something, and someone turns around, and it's Wolverine. Ain't I a stinker?
They go fucking Gremlins 2 on us. No, in the middle, fucking Wolverine comes in and breaks the negative.
And speaking of the fourth wall, James actually had a great pull, because we were discussing that there was no, during the workshop stuff, which is arguably better than how the Weapon X stuff is presented in Wolverine Origins, which is the Weapon X movie. There was no specific breaking moment of Wade to differentiate between him being Wade and then becoming Deadpool. And James actually had a pretty great pull for what that probably should have been.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen just a POV shot of Wade in the oxygen tank, like looking past the glass and like just for a second seeing Tim Miller and the camera crew looking at him. Ryan, don't look at the camera, Ryan.
That would have been incredible.
Like, it would have been cool just to see that slight nod, because that's something about Deadpool's characterization in the comics that's I've always found really fascinating, that doesn't get brought up that often, that Deadpool's not actually insane. He just, the Weapon X experiments just expanded his consciousness to the point where he knows he's a fictional character, so that's his natural response to that.
To everybody else, he's insane. To him, he's just not real. And that's really the only complaint that I have, is there's not that break moment for him. Because in the stands, he just, as soon as he's out of the workshop, he's just Deadpool.
Honestly, my only complaint, I would say, is that I wish there were more to do with Vanessa, because I like spending time with that character and genuinely love that relationship.
Ambi's got a crush.
We all have a crush, shut the fuck up.
Okay.
Jesus. I just want to do Reynolds.
I mean, wow.
Same.
Even scarred Reynolds is just...
Well, we do get to see that dip, so.
I love how this movie has eye candy for women and gay men. Again, it's such an equal opportunity movie.
I mean, there's literally a scene where, in the midst of a sex sequence where they're going through the months and the calendar year of all the different holidays, Morena Baccarin whispers into Ryan Reynolds' ear, "Happy International Women's Day." And then you hear smacking of leather. Reynolds winces.
She pegs the fuck out of him. Also, my favorite joke from that scene, Happy Lent.
So subtle.
And what I love is that Baccarin actually revealed that all of that was filmed in a single day, and they were laughing hysterically between takes.
I imagine. Also, I like how this movie came out right before International Women's Day. Which I like to think is intentional, so that a month later everyone would look at their calendar, see that, and then just start laughing hysterically.
Well, I actually posted a Facebook status saying, please keep Morena Baccarin away from Ryan Reynolds' ass for at least 24 hours.
Hey, it's Wade. He enjoyed it.
Well, that's actually another, mini complaint I had, is that he didn't enjoy it in the scene.
Yeah, that was kind of out of character. Wade would
That was weird.
I do love, though, just how sexually ambiguous they keep Wade. Which is, sort of a thing from the comics that, very recently has become, officially canon. It's just like how they retain that, but they also draw no attention to it. It's played perfectly.
Well, I mean, one of the opening jokes is that in order to get this story told, Deadpool jokes about the fact that he had to fondle Wolverine's balls.
I'm so happy that the Deadpool movie opens with Deadpool turning to the camera and saying, I don't know why there's a Deadpool movie either, to be honest.
I'm just glad they managed to get a minor Wolverine cameo. Even if he's not in the movie, at least he got a name drop.
Well, also the biggest thing, which the only thing that I hated was cut from the script, which I knew was going to be cut because there's no way it could have been retained, was in the script there's a scene of him buying a Spider-Man mask, turning it around, and discovering the Deadpool mask.
The scene that Ryan Reynolds specifically requested.
I still feel like they filmed that.
There's trailer shots. There's
good.
trailer shots that confirms him sewing the mask and everything. It's just
God,
they don't show it inverted.
If he just reviewed that mask, he could have put it in there.
This is some bullshit.
Cody, are you still stuck on the copyright thing?
It's amazing to me. I didn't know that's all he had to do. I can't trust it. It's too easy.
Mike, it's our running joke. Don't question it.
I'm sorry, I'm breaking the fourth wall.
This movie is gonna have the greatest gag reel of all time. I want to see the 20-minute Green Lantern rant, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh God.
To
I was
Colossus.
this close to going into the movie.
Miller described it as like Reynolds having essentially a psychotic breakdown where he had some things to get off his chest and he was just going to do it right then and there.
What I love about that is that's the closest we've ever gotten to Reynolds talking about what went wrong with Green Lantern.
He does it to
my career, you son of a bitch.
It was fascinating to hear. Like, oh yeah, they really didn't have a script ready. They just said, "Do you want to be a superhero?" And he said, "Yes."
Which
There
the
was something
problem
like
with
7 writers on that movie. There was never going to be a coherent script put together.
Hey, the first draft of
Yeah.
Green Lantern, it's online. If you ever read it, it's one of the best superhero movies never made.
It's from the creators of The Flash.
Yep.
like they actually had a great script. It's just Warner Brothers didn't like it. So
It was Kreisberg and Guggenheim who wrote it, wasn't it?
yeah, and Michael Green, who
Yes,
was a really good comic book writer. He did an amazing run on Batman, Superman.
Only the
But-
basic spine of that script pretty much remains.
And not even, I would say even less than that, because they basically take it and make it a worse version of Secret Origins, which is the comic that Jeff Johns did. But Green Lantern aside, like, this movie does everything in its power to remind you of what they had to do to get to this point, including, but not limited to, showing you an action figure of Weapon 11.
I'm so glad that joke stayed in, including Wham.
Yeah.
So, Cody, you've been quiet.
He's been researching copyright law.
I've just been staring at Stephen Lang for hours.
Oh,
How long have you been talking?
I was
Get
just hoping
lost.
I would say you've been quiet. You say I hated this fucking movie.
It's terrible. No, I really enjoyed it.
It's like
I don't have much to complain about the film at all. One thing that really gets to me is just normally when you see a movie, you kind of complain about the marketing. And in this case, everyone is in the exact opposite camp. They all have nothing but praise for the marketing campaign. It's like for once, marketing executives actually got their shit together and knew how to promote a movie that could have been very difficult in other hands to get out there.
I'm just so happy that all of the gags from the trailer are still in the movie.
Right? They managed to promote a comedy without spoiling the best parts. They managed to sell a movie that kind of wildly swings between, a very serious, somewhat typical superhero movie and a complete parody homage to superhero movies. They managed to represent that well. They even had the joking Valentine's Day trailers. They did all sorts of different weird things. Even the emoticon, like, banners that they put out there, Skull, Deadpool, like, it was creative, it was funny, it was interesting, it didn't spoil the movie, it sold what it actually was.
And
I'm
Godsmack.
They actually did a great job marketing the film. They did it perfect, and it worked.
It was like this whole other movie going on top of the actual movie. Like, you can just watch the marketing things and get a whole different Deadpool experience. And it let people know who Deadpool was, and, that's what prepared him for the film.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get a trailer, and a TV spot, I should say, for Deadpool where he's talking about the correct way to scoop your balls up to check for testicular cancer. And you get one talking about Happy Australian Day.
And you have Deadpool giving Conan O'Brien a massage. Medic! Medic! I just love how it felt like the ad campaign for this movie began like the week after the test footage leaked. Meanwhile, Marvel has been publishing Deadpool comics as though a Deadpool film franchise has been going on for 7 years.
They know.
They're just ahead of the curve.
Also, apparently, like, there's tons of marketing stuff we've never seen. Like, Reynolds was just, as long as they were filming the movie, just filming himself as Deadpool with his own phone in his trailer, doing marketing things.
Well, what's funny is
I can't stop.
You say that, like, as long as it was going on with the filming, he did it after filming plenty of times because he kept the suit.
He just kept doing things as Deadpool.
Like, he released on his own YouTube page that is just literally called Ryan Reynolds. He released a video of himself on Halloween talking smack to a bunch of children dressed as X-Men characters.
Well, look, they did the One of the Make-A-Wish kids, they just did a viral video with her. Deadpool's going up in the tree to get her cat. Because Reynolds just put the suit on and would do stuff as Deadpool, and they would film it. That thing ended up in TV spots, that little viral video, as if it was part of the movie. It's genius.
I like the idea of a Make-A-Wish kid wanting to meet Deadpool above everything else. That is an awesome kid.
He beat cancer too.
Well, what's
Together,
funny is that
we're
happened,
unstoppable.
that happened multiple times, actually. Like, there were stories all the time about Make-A-Wish kids coming up to the set and Reynolds, like, there was a kid that got to try on the mask because he was such a big fan. And, like, there were people that got to go to the premiere because Reynolds sent them tickets because they expressed how huge fans they were. Like,
For an R-rated movie, too.
yeah, that was pretty amazing, actually. But Reynolds had a level of fan interaction with this movie that I have never seen on any project, because he understands how important this character was to a lot of people.
I say the R-rating thing. I love when people online get just so fucking incensed about people taking kids to see R-rated movies. It's like, they can legally do that. I'm not saying it's for kids, but fuck. I saw worse R-rated films when I was a kid than fucking Deadpool.
The irony is, no one would get more out of Deadpool than a 14-year-old.
Exactly.
Although I'm currently at the stage where if I see anyone under the age of like 12 in an R-rated movie, I'm just gonna like have to fight myself for hours to not throw my Coca-Cola at their face and beat them to death with like my shoes.
As long as they're with your shoes. I beat them to death with their own shoes. That's a Wayne's World 2 reference for you kids at home.
Oh yeah.
I'm fine with the kids.
Excellent.
As
Party time.
Yeah. Did you say Cody time?
Party time.
Okay.
Although they're actually giving me the idea.
I'm fine with kids in the theater as long as they're quiet. I even if they're allowed there, I just want them to be quiet, or otherwise they should leave. Nobody should take their baby to a theater.
No.
Never.
No.
Take your baby to a theater.
I'm just so mad because I went to go see The
6-month-old doesn't
Witch.
care about Zootopia.
You would think so, but you're wrong. They're very concerned about the rabbits. I went to go see The Witch a couple weeks ago, and a woman brought in her like whole family, and all the kids were under like 10 years old. And The Witch is just not a great movie for children. One, they speak in like old English accents, so it's not necessarily easy for them to understand anything that's being said. Seeing babies ground into like basically blood lube for brooms, not something kids get into, apparently.
That's what they need to know is gonna happen if they fucking act up one more time. You shut up in the theater, else you will be blood lube.
I probably should have turned around and told them that. And then they started crying at the end of the movie, which made me feel good inside.
I'm with you.
Good, you deserve to cry.
And then the mother started swearing at the screen because she didn't appreciate the ending. It's like, hey, please don't come to theaters. Don't bring your horrible, monstrous little children. One of the kids at some point in the movie just loudly said to his mom, I'm gonna barf everywhere, which is concerning to me because I was sitting in front of him. And then they ran out to the bathroom and came back 5 minutes later. I did this several times, so I don't know if this kid was just puking up his like 90 gallons of Coca-Cola he had purchased and all of his licorice sticks, or if he just had to pee a lot because he was drinking that much soda. I don't know, but I really just, kids in theaters, don't like them. Don't
That's
want them.
what On Demand was made for.
Jesus, man.
It was terrible. Terrible. The worst.
Wow, you're like a Vietnam veteran with this.
I'm having flashbacks here.
Meanwhile, when I went to see Deadpool, the theater was empty.
Really? My theater is like fucking almost sold out, which is actually kind of rare. We don't get a ton of people in for new release movies. Kind of in the middle of nowhere, I guess.
You go to my theater in the afternoon on a weekday in Sims, Alabama, you will see some empty fucking rooms.
A Sunday morning, it was about 50% capacity. I had a great reaction, though, when Deadpool fucking went off on Professor X, the Heaven's Gate looking motherfucker. As soon as he said that line, just somebody in the audience went, damn! Because it was just such an amazing takedown. They were so taken aback by that series of lines.
Oh god, before we go, I've got to tell my theater story, which is I showed up a little bit late and like just caught like the last two trailers. I walk in, sit down, and as soon as I sit down, the trailer for Independence Day Resurgence plays. I'm thinking, this is the most Deadpool trailer I could possibly play. Just fucking Bill Pullman and his beard.
Jeff Goldblum on the moon.
I tried to warn them. And then I get the X-Men Apocalypse trailer. And the whole time I'm thinking, please let this be the last trailer. Please let this be the last trailer. And it's the last trailer. Yes.
God, you're so lucky. I love how you and your audience is able to go in there with, this movie takes place in the same universe.
20 years later.
How amazing just for that one screening. They played that trailer. Deadpool comes up with 20 years later in Comic Sans across the bottom.
That's another amazing fact about this, is that this takes place in a future X-Men timeline that, beyond Deadpool, we haven't seen anything for because of the reboot.
That's weird. Deadpool is the first official entry into Phase 2 of the X-Men cinematic universe. He's the Iron Man.
And just thank God for Deadpool just coming along and being different.
I was really hoping that's the last thing you were going to say. Thank God for Deadpool. And then the episode
God
ends.
bless America.
And then just hard credits.
I'm serious. I as James Gunn's rant said, I hope the studios take the right message away from Deadpool. Because Deadpool's such just they won't, but Deadpool's such an amazing this comedy that no executive would ever get. And a movie filled with such heart while also being a hard R-rated film. And executives are going to take away, we should just make fucking R-rated Spider-Man or something.
Well,
or R-rated Superman movie.
Yeah,
Spider-Man shoots knives instead of the web.
Peter, no. Kill me.
Every time they come out, I bleed.
But he would wipe up crime in New York City, let me tell
I
you.
killed Mary Jane last night. I merely tried to make love to her.
My wrist twitched and I killed Aunt May.
Spider-Man just ejaculating knives.
Non-stop like a stream of them.
Everywhere I go, I bring death. And then he dies because he was bit by a radioactive spider.
That was like 8 hours after the incident. He's heavily infected. Like, he's wearing the costume to hide his hideous deformity.
This is Josh Trank Spider-Man.
I don't even want a proper ending for Deadpool. That's the end. Go home. We can't top those jokes.
And like that, he's gone.
I'm still just imagining Spider-Man shooting knives out of his wrist and he can't control it.
Neogenic nightmare.
Kraven the Hunter is just fucking nailed to a board somewhere with 14 knives through his skull. Kraven's last hunt.
I'm still stuck on the fact that he just dies because he was bitten by a radioactive spider.
His career as Spider-Man is just a hallucination.
He killed him.
Stan Lee is working at the morgue. He zips him up and says something kind of funny, and we end.
It's 3.5 hours long.
I'm still not convinced that Spider-Man's entire superhero career isn't just one long Jacob's Ladder.
What a wrinkle that would be for the final issue of Spider-Man. Fucking 16-year-old Peter wakes up, strapped to a gurney in a hospital, got hit by a fucking car.
Is Uncle Ben still alive? No, he was the one driving the car.
Killed himself from grief.
He was trying to run bananas away from Gorilla Grodd. Don't worry, Wonder Woman got him.
That's the end of Spider-Man.
This is Box Office Pulp Guy, and this has been a Pulp Podcast production. Now please, 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 put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger and say goodnight.
And now, on with the show.
Mr. Johnson, Have you heard about those people who don't know about our podcast?
Yes, sir. I've heard of them.
Do you think anyone who doesn't know about our Southern Theme podcast should go to jail?
No, sir.
Do you think anyone who has heard about it but hasn't listened to our podcast should go to jail?
No, sir, no.
Do you think anyone who refuses to listen to our Southern Theme podcast should go to jail?
No, sir, not really, no.
Then what should happen? What would be a fair sentence? Do they deserve to die, Mr. Johnson? Do they deserve to die?
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Matt Johnson was found innocent of all charges and resumed hosting his monthly podcast, Below the Bible Belt.